under the impression it was.
Oh, no, yes.
That's what I thought too.
She hasn't looked at that way.
I'll ask Aaron. I'll ask Aaron.
One solo print.
Aaron, let me know when you're ready.
Let's do it.
You ready? Good evening. It's 7 o'clock. Welcome to the July 12th, 2021 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. My name's Paul Evans. I'm your chair. Welcome, everybody. At this time, we'll all stand up, face the flag, and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Ms. Schluto, could we have a roll call vote, please? Or a roll call?
Allen,
Yes, I'm here.
Gesund,
Yes, here.
McAlpine,
Present, here.
Ward,
Yes.
Euler,
Here.
McDonald, Evans.
Here. Okay, this is a board of 7 members. We have 6. 6 is a quorum, so we can proceed. Our next matter is approval of agenda. Do any members of the board or staff have any suggested changes or modifications to the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Schluto.
Gesund,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes?
Evans.
Yes. We now have before us the draft meeting minutes of our last meeting, which was on May 10th, 2021. We've all had an opportunity to look at those. Does anyone have any comments, corrections, modifications? And if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
I'll move that we adopt the minutes from the last meeting, which was May 10th, 2021.
I'll support that motion.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Ms. Schluto.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes?
Gesund,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes. Okay, we have no old business, so we'll move right on to new business. We've got 2 cases, and just so everybody watching or the applicants are aware of how the order of operations, I'll just explain. So I'll call the case and then ask staff to provide a brief summary of the request. Members of the board, if they have questions for staff, they can ask at that time. Then I'll ask the applicant to come up and present to the board. Now, know that we've all read your application materials in detail, and many of us, if not all of us, have visited the site. While you're welcome to repeat and talk about everything in your application, you're not required to. It could be as simple as, I'm here to answer any questions. I've said everything that I want in my application. But it's your time, and you can present whatever you'd like to us. At that time, I'll turn it back over to the board for any questions that board members may have for the applicant. And those questions and the responses will go through the chair. Once the questions and answers are concluded, I'll ask the applicant to return back to their seat, and I'll open up the public hearing. Any members of the public would be asked that are here to speak at the microphone, and we'll enter other comments that have been received, including those by email. On the conclusion of the public hearing, I'll close the public hearing, and we'll turn it back over to the board. That's limited to board discussion. However, if a member of the board has a question for the applicant, we may call you back up to get some clarification or get that answered. So with that being said, I will call the first case at 3497 Tyler. Ms. Schluto.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to reference my July 8th, 2021 review letter. This item comes to you from Jim Terbruggen on behalf of Scott Marion, the homeowner at 3497 Tyler, that's on the west side of Tyler, north of 12 Mile, parcel 25-07-451-034. There are 3 requests for variances in front of you this evening. One, to construct an addition to the main house that is proposed to be 4 feet from the north property line. Number 2, a variance to construct the addition that is proposed to be 12 feet 8 inches from adjacent dwelling to the north and 13 feet 3 inches from adjacent dwelling to the south. And a variance to construct the addition and garage that is proposed to cover 41% of the residential lot. Now, on the review letter here that I've provided, in addition to summarizing the request, I've also provided what is required by ordinance. There is a minimum side yard setback in the R1D district of 5 feet. As noted, the proposed addition is deficient in 1 foot from the north property line. Number 2, there's a required minimum separation distance of at least 15 feet between dwellings. The proposed construction of the addition is proposed to be less on either side of that 15 feet. And the schedule of regulations timetable limits the total area of all structure to 35% lot coverage. As I've noted, they're proposing to cover 41% of the residential lot. I've provided zoning and land use. So the property itself is located in the R1D district. The subject site is currently being used as a 2-unit dwelling, and I've provided some background history of this property, and I'll summarize herein. So the property has been used and registered as a 2-unit dwelling from at least 1992. There is a landlord license that we found on file from 1977, but it wasn't clear as to how many units there were, if it was just a single or a double. So this property has been used as a as a 2-unit dwelling since 1992. They were deficient in submitting and reaffirming that unit as 2-unit in January of 2017, and after 180 days, a non-conforming use is considered vacated. So the only use of that property could go back to a permitted use within the single-family district. As you know, 2-unit apartments or dwellings are not permitted in the single-family residential district. So in September 2019, the city staff sent a notification to the property owner noting the nonconformity, and it was no longer permitted to continue. Therefore, the applicant has submitted the plans that you see before you in order to modify the interior and make this a true single-family home. So you'll see from the interior layout, there's no longer an upper floor and a bottom floor with 2 separate kitchens. There's 1 kitchen, 1 dining room, and 4 bedrooms. So that's what they're looking to do. In addition to making these interior modifications, they're asking to construct this addition in order to make this more viable for their single-family home. Provided the scope of this, this is a non-conforming building. In addition to it being a formerly non-conforming use, it is now it is also a non-conforming building. This house was constructed previously in the 1920s, and it wasn't built to the same standards that we have now. So they are not requesting to encroach any further closer to the adjacent dwellings or any further into the setback as it is. They are just looking to extend their addition in the same line as the building as it is. So there are 3 requests here, as I've summarized here, and there are, as you know, 5 standards of review, and I will read those out aloud.
Thank you.
Number 1, the need for the variance is due to unique circumstances or physical conditions of the property. Number 2, the need for the variance is not the result of actions of the property owner or previous property owners. Number 3, strict compliance with the ordinance will unreasonably prevent the property owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or will render conformity with those regulations unnecessarily burdensome. Number 4, the requested variance is the minimum variance necessary to do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners. And number 5, the requested variance will not adversely impact the surrounding properties. I've provided a summary of each one of these as well as gone through my analysis for each standard. This review letter was provided to the applicants last week, so they are fully aware of everything that needed to be done. The meeting was posted in the newspaper per standard statute, as well as a temporary sign was placed on the property alerting the public of the public hearing this evening. We did receive, excuse me. Nope, I apologize, that's for the next case.
Other case.
I have not received any comments related to this case.
Measure twice, cut once.
Be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes. Do any members of the board have any questions for staff? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, well, at this point, the applicant is here. If you could come on up to the microphone. And for the record, if you could just state your name, your address, and your interest in the property, just so we get an idea what your relationship is, and tell us what you'd like us to know.
Yes, Scott Marion, 3497 Tyler, Berkley, Michigan. Proud owner of the home that I'm hoping to transfer back into a single-family home because that's the way it was actually built in the 20s, and I want to preserve what I have.
Okay. Jim, anything else?
No, I'm Jim Trebrugan, 10775 South Saginaw, Grand Blanc, Michigan. I'm engineer on the project. Like we said, I just want to turn this home back into a single-family home, make it more user-friendly. As you know, in most of the older houses, I think you get the 1-foot counter spaces we talked about. So hopefully we can turn this into a house that's a little more usable, user-friendly for Scott and his family.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Thank you. Do any members of the board have any questions for the applicants? Mr. Ular.
I had one question. Do you know how the property's been used since 2017?
Well, yeah, it's a single family. My whole family lives there.
And
We actually, in 2018, we adopted 4 children. And at that time, they were ages 4, 3, a year and a half, and 6 months. And we need to open up the upstairs. Right now, it has a rear access to the upstairs. And we need to change that back for the space. That's why we're turning it back into a single family home.
okay, but you were the owner in 2017?
Yes. I actually, and I heard her say it was used as 2-family homes since '92. Actually, my parents bought it in '87, and I bought it from them in 2017, I think, when I bought it from them. Yeah.
So it wasn't like in the 2000s, it wasn't being rented as a
No.
Okay.
If I may, we have records of rental licensing agreements from that time. So whether it was used that way or not, it was the rental certificate was still being kept in compliance.
Okay.
Ms. Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed the garage in the back. When was that built?
I believe 58. It's really it's shot. I believe that garage was built in 1958. That's the last record that I could find on file that anything was done to that house, and I think it was part of the garage being built. And that garage is
Is the garage usable?
no. No. The roof is bad. The sill plates are all bad. It needs to be tore down. I mean, I use the middle of the garage because it leaks on all sides. So it's really and I didn't want to start construction on that right away because I knew we had this in the works. So, and if everybody knows, it's a easier process to go through if you do everything at once. That way the contractors are already on site.
Thank you.
Mr. Allen.
Just for the sake of clarification, the garage remaining in its current position is what totaled up to the 41% lot coverage? Or have we removed that from the calculations?
No, the garage itself is part of the calculations of the lot coverage.
Okay.
So they are increasing the size from what they have right now. It's not much, but
2 feet out of the garage.
yeah, it's not that much, but it is
Okay.
it is being enlarged. Yes.
And if I could follow up on that question, Mr. Allen.
Yes.
So you're tearing the garage down and rebuilding it bigger?
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's, like I said, it's just slightly bigger. I think we added 2 feet onto the garage.
Yes.
Right. What are the dimensions of the garage, do you know?
22 by 20.
22 by 20. Okay.
Existing is 22 by 18, right? Or 20 by 18.
20
Yeah, I
by
meant the
18.
new one, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. That's okay. Glad you brought it up. Okay.
Is there, if
Yeah,
I may,
Mr. Giselle.
is there a possibility of building the garage to the same dimensions that the existing garage is?
Well, if you don't plan on putting a car in it, yes. The
Okay.
cars are too long.
Okay.
They were, in fact, I had a small minivan.
Okay.
It would not fit.
Okay.
I couldn't shut the door. So
Okay.
that's
important,
why I
yeah.
wanted to say,
Gotcha.
give me
Okay.
2 foot.
Okay.
I have a question. Can you talk about the existing square footage of the existing house compared to the square footage of the new house? Just like to get a comparison.
Well, there's 2 bedrooms downstairs and 2 bedrooms upstairs, existing. And the square footage in the lower is, I think, 740 square foot. Is that correct? I think. I believe that's close.
About a 740, 50 on the lower floor footprint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Approximately.
And
Um,
if I'm not mistaken, the new one you're adding towards the rear, the width of the house, and it's about, what, 16 feet? Gotcha, and then some of the
Yes.
deck, okay.
And that will allow for the kitchen that currently is about this big.
Sure.
And it will allow for part of the master bedroom on the north side
Okay.
as well.
All right, well, that's sufficient for my question. Okay, thank you. Any other questions from members of the board? Oh, I have one more question. Regarding the lot coverage, can you enumerate, either if you've already said it in your application or if you want to add anything, the unique circumstance with the property that would warrant the additional lot coverage? What's unique with the property that you believe would warrant that?
Good question. I don't know that I have a proper answer for that, other than I need to conform for my family, and adding this addition to it will definitely raise the value.
Mm-hmm.
It will look. I'm trying to clean up a mess, and the mess is the driveway is tore up, as you've seen.
Right.
And I'm really just trying to clean up a mess and make it more viable for my family to.
Okay, and you said you had how many people were living there just recently with your family?
Well, I have 6 in the lower unit.
Yeah. Okay.
And my daughter and my oldest granddaughter live in the upper unit.
So you're trying to accommodate for
I'm trying to
more than a couple people.
keep a roof over their head. Yes.
Okay.
I guess I
Mr.
want
Ular, yes.
follow up kind of in that vein. So the 41% figure that we're given here and lot coverage 6% over, that's with the
Addition to the garage.
so what would it be if the garage remained the same size? Do you have any idea?
Well, you'd take off
2 foot by
2 by 2.
40, right?
You wouldn't. It
You only
wouldn't be
get us
a
down
whole
like
lot of lot
1%.
coverage with the garage, because I said instead of 22 by 20, I think you go
Aren't
down
they
to
counting the eaves too, or something?
No, because the eaves we had to draw back from the side.
We did draw
Those back. The garage, you could figure out it wouldn't be too much lot coverage with the garage.
And this might be for staff, and maybe I'm just not following, but so what is the percentage right now? Is it under 35?
You know, I didn't calculate that. I apologize.
Mr. Architect Engineer, perhaps you know the existing lot coverage off the top of your head there?
Lot coverage, I think it was at 36% or 35%. Probably had that marked on before.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause that takes into
Oh, from the survey?
Yep, that takes into account everything. That's the driveway, everything with this one, and the existing garage. The existing garage is 18.5 by 20.
And you will be expanding it to 20 by 22?
Yes.
Correct. So we're just coming 2 foot off the front to allow a car to be put in the garage.
And while he's looking, I have a question for staff. Lot coverage is could you clarify what structures are incorporated in the lot coverage percentage calculation?
It's the house and the garage. So a porch and a deck are not considered as part of the lot coverage.
Gotcha, so the buildings.
Mhm.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Driveway is considered a lot coverage also, isn't it?
No.
No.
I think the driveway, we actually had that included in the right now, so I'll have to look and check into that.
I don't think, no, because,
Sure.
yep,
Okay.
because otherwise nobody would meet the minimum maximum lot coverage.
We'd already be way over.
Way over.
Alrighty. All right, well, it can be difficult sometimes to know when you approach a board of 7 to be prepared for every possible answer. But,
It's very minimal, I know, we'd probably go down to like 40%. Lot coverage, 39% if we put the garage to exactly what the garage is now, the
Okay.
existing garage.
okay, well,
So you lower a couple percentage
enough.
points.
yeah,
Which I would prefer that over shrinking the size of the addition.
sure.
But I prefer to do it the way we drew it.
Sure. Okay.
I'm reasonable too. So.
We can definitely go through it and see if we need to modify the garage, so.
All right.
So is there any sort of garage you think you could get there that would make it 35? That would,
You wouldn't be able-
that would get a car inside?
No,
It'd be a shed.
You'd be a one-car garage if you went down to to get the
Yeah.
35%.
But you could do a one-car garage? Not that
You could
anyone wants
actually
one,
do it.
really.
You could do a 1.5 maybe, that would get it close to the 35%.
Yeah.
Minivan and a motorcycle.
So
Right.
I guess my next
I have-
question for the applicant would be,
There's like 5 bicycles in there. No.
if you have to choose between keeping your entire addition and getting a garage that's only 1.5 cars, what would
If I had to choose, I'd shrink the garage. Hopefully I don't have to choose.
Okay.
Good. Okay.
Now,
Any additional questions from members of the board? Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much.
thank you.
Well, at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on this matter? If so, please approach the podium and to be recognized. So your name and your city of residence, please?
My name is Dean Smith. I live in Berkley, Michigan. I had no intention of talking on this one tonight, but this afternoon I stopped by the property, talked to Mr. Marion. A couple observations, or one, start with a question. Lot coverage, is it measured from the foundations or from the eaves and eaves troughs?
It's measured from the foundation.
So lot coverage is measured from foundations.
Mhm.
Okay, that is a big one there. I looked at his garage, and being a guy that's got an 800 square foot garage, I think every garage is too small. He doesn't have room to bump in the back, and to have a useful garage, you need at least 20 feet of depth. As I heard him talking about, he could narrow it down and maybe make it 1.5 car. Perhaps it makes a lot of this discussion moot. Another thing he told me he's going to do that, when we talk about lot coverage, a lot of it has to do with percolation and where does rainwater go. As part of redoing his garage, he's also going to put in a new driveway, which would have curbing, and that would certainly take some stress off the neighboring property owner. The last thing I wanted to share, and Ms. Shuto did well, he's not expanding. He's going straight back, or proposed to go straight back, and the property to the north, the one with the encroachment, property to the south, the one with the encroachment, the addition is behind that building. So if you were to measure out, you probably wouldn't have the issue there, except for maybe a foot or two. And sometimes you can deal with the fire concerns by using a fire retardant insulation. But overall, it's kind of neat to see somebody want to put money into an existing home and maintain the architecture and some of the character of the city that is fast going away.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. And if I could just clarify, if you'd like to share your residence or just give us an idea, are you a neighbor near the area or are you not near the area?
I am not, he's near
Visits
Clark's Ice
Clark's a
Cream.
lot.
So I'm familiar with the home because I eat too much ice cream.
Gotcha.
But, no, we're not neighbors. I live on the other side of 12 Mile.
Okay, just wanted to get an idea. Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, you're out of order. If you could, thank you. All right. Are there any other members here, or, excuse me, I should say members of the public who'd like to speak? Okay, and Ms. Schluto, you indicated we don't have any written correspondence on this?
I have not received any, no.
Okay, well, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion. Mr. Allen?
Yeah, Ms. Schluto, with the proximity of the houses on either side of it, would they be required by law to build out of fire retardant material?
They'll have
Fire
to-
stop walls?
They'll have to provide fire separation.
Okay.
I guess this is sort of another question.
Sure.
For Aaron. Am I correct that the first two variances, but for the lapse in 2017, I mean, the existing structure is already non-conforming, correct?
Correct.
And they're not really increasing the non-conformity on those two?
They are only in the sense that they are occupying the same amount of space that encroaches into the designated setback or into that 15 feet, but they're not going beyond what the existing building line currently is. They're just
Right.
pushing it back further.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, I have one.
If I may expand on that just really
Sure.
quickly. So per our ordinance, any non-conforming structure can continue, can be enlarged, can be maintained. However, if there's going to be an addition onto that, such as in this case, it needs to comply with the ordinance as it's written currently. So given that it's a non-conforming structure, the addition that they want to put on has to abide by the 5 foot, the 15-foot separation, which means there's going to be like this weird jut thing if, without a variance.
Thank you. I've got a couple thoughts on the variances. The lot area coverage, I'm not seeing, in one of our standards is the need is due to unique circumstances or physical conditions of the property. I took a look at the aerial of the neighborhood at the county with the lot lines, and many of these lots in this neighborhood, not just across the street, south, north, and west, are identically shaped. I'm not convinced that the property or physical condition warrants necessarily covering more than 35% with buildings. I do believe that there are actions of adjacent property owners that have impacted the separation distance, which are completely out of anybody's control, this gentleman's control. Certainly, I think there could be some justification for that one. And with the setback, I guess I'd like to hear some more thoughts on it. I can see it as them just bringing everything a foot in. I guess I'd like to see if, give me an example of how that's unreasonably preventing the property owner from using the property. I'd just like to hear more of the board comments. But I figured I'd share those for discussion purposes. Mr. Allen.
One of the things that popped into my mind as I was reading through this, and I think others of us have probably also had the same thought, the overriding issue on this is the lot coverage. And we should probably start the deliberative process with that, because if that doesn't fly, then the other two are moot.
I think that's a good point.
I think that's, yeah.
Hearing, seeing some concurrence on this side of the table.
Well,
Mr. Ular.
I guess my thought on that is not necessarily, because we could, if we did, like the applicant talked about, like if he does something different with the garage, potentially still need the other two for the for the main structure. I think that would be his preference. I don't know if there's a way to figure it out, but I'm interested in knowing what the lot coverage is now. Because it seems like we have somebody who's trying to modernize a property that does need it. I don't think we want 1920s rental properties
Clearly, it's non-conforming.
kind of floating around, and it's non-conforming. So
Mhm.
if it's non-conforming as is, just because of a lapse, I don't think we want to put up our nose, spite our face. So in other words, if he's more or less at the same percentage now as he was then, or as it is now, just 1 or 2%, I would like to know that.
Yeah, and maybe that's something the board feels that, more information may be needed, as well as, perhaps additional responses to our comments. I'm not suggesting right now, because everything's, just as new for everybody here today as it is for the other guy. Thank you.
I think I think we can meet the 5 criteria for the first 2. I am struggling with the unique. Why? You look on the aerial photographs. Looks like there's single car garages on the street.
Mhm.
You know, and I have one. They stink. You know, but people have them. You know, it's not like you can't use the property.
So if the, if I may, if the square, it says on this, engineering design that the total property area is 4,400 square feet. The existing building is how many square feet on the existing building?
Is that a question you like is that
Yeah.
a question you like,
Yeah,
see
if I
the
could
applicant can
ask
answer
the
that?
applicant
Okay.
for that. I'm trying to see if I can find it on the plans.
I thought he said the existing was 720 feet and that the new addition would add a little over 600 feet for the first floor.
That was for the first floor.
Yeah.
But for a 2-story building, would we count the second floor or not?
Ms. Schluto?
Yeah.
In terms of lot coverage, no, we don't
No.
count the second
Okay,
story.
so
It's
it'd be
just
7.
the coverage of the lot.
So it's a little over 1,300 square feet, I think.
Okay.
But I think the engineer needs to address that.
I think he's calculating. I'm trying. Well, I think he's got one out too. Yeah.
You're 826 square feet for the main floor on the existing house.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir, if you could just approach the podium, yes.
For the main
Sorry about
house
that.
right now, you're 826 square feet. You're 32 by 26
Okay.
on the existing house. And then we are adding 16 feet going out with that new addition.
How many square feet is that?
Total.
And that would include the covered porch and the garage. So the question is, what's the percentage of lot coverage now? And I guess what I'd like to do, sir, if you could have a seat. Sir, if you could have a seat, it's clear right now, you have to perform some more calculations. I don't expect you to do that now.
Okay.
So if you just go ahead and have a seat, and I think it's a question that
What did you
this might, we may not be in. We want to be careful of answering unanticipated questions now and having this board make a decision potentially based on something that might not have been 100% correct, so. But Ms. Schluto, I saw you had your hand up.
Just doing a rough calculation, it looks like we're at about 27%, give or take a few inches here.
27%?
Yeah.
That's
It's
the
based on
house
the
covered.
32,
Yeah.
32 by 26 for the house.
Yep.
And the 18 by 20 for the garage.
All right.
We're at 27 now?
Roughly, yeah. Substantially under 35.
Under
And,
35.
does that include the covered porch, or would it include the covered porch?
No, it does not. It's the structure itself.
It's the structure itself, okay. All right. Okay. I'm comfortable with that. Board members?
You mean at the calculation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as everyone else hears.
I have no idea.
Okay, all right. Well,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
are you suggesting that the applicant replace the existing garage with the same size of garage?
No, I'm thinking, I think it would behoove us to do our best to try to vet each one of these, but knowing that they're all reliant on each other.
Mhm.
In the instance that we can't approve all three of them, would it behoove us to act on them and dispose of them at tonight's meeting? I guess I'll just say it bluntly. I'm thinking if we don't think we can approve all three tonight, it's probably best that the applicant hears all that information, he designs the project accordingly, and can always have the option to come back for a variance based on the input he's been given. And I also think if because I think the board is in a better position if the variance requests we act on to approve are very clearly laid out. Are we going to reduce the garage? Are we going to make the house smaller? Are we okay with any? I don't know.
A number of things we could do,
A number of
yes.
things. Do we,
Yeah.
do we decide that we want it to comply with the 5-foot setback? So we're going to approve it with a 5-foot setback, and your design has to show a 5-foot setback. I think it's safer for the board to see a definitive plan and the whole impact of everything on the property, as well as members of the public.
You know, as far as lot coverage goes, a 15% over the minimum or maximum required seems, in my estimation, a bit high.
I think it's 6%.
Huh?
6% over
From 35 to.
35
Yeah.
to 27.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, you're saying an increase
to
over what's
14.
there, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm doing an increase to what they're asking for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
unfortunately, you were not at the last meeting, but we had a similar situation where we had 3 variances last time, and we approved one of the variances and denied the other 2 variances. So I understand what you're saying about if we can't approve all of them, then maybe we need to let the applicant go back and maybe rework his proposal.
Okay. Yes, and each case is different,
Mhm.
even though there
Yeah.
may be very similar requests on paper. Everything's unique, and that's why we try to vet each request
Right.
independently.
Yeah, I'm struggling with the lot coverage one. I was hoping and thinking that if it had been over 35 to begin with, then we're, it's basically just kind of a paperwork lapse close to kind of thing in 2017. But we have these, we did have one just, the next person comes along and wants to just, because they want a really big house, go over the limit. What's the difference? I mean, basically, if we approve this, then anybody who wants to build a bigger house in Berkley and go over the 35%, unless we have a reason why we're doing it here, it's just like anybody can do it.
Consistency is important, right?
And I want to move on from the 1920s kind of rental vibe, but
Well, we do have the option to table. If we can perhaps provide some reasonably clear direction as to our thoughts or individual board member thoughts on one or more of the, perhaps, we could deny. Of course, we could approve, but I'm sensing the comments I've heard from the board that the likelihood of all 3 of them being approved, I'm not sure.
In the April meeting, we tabled the proposal on Royal, and then it came back to us in May. So to me, that makes a lot of sense, is to, now that the petitioner has heard what we have to say and our concerns, and that we're trying to maintain, and we are using the zoning code as our format, that maybe some alterations could be made to the plans, which would provide for approval, and maybe there would be one variance that they wouldn't need.
Sure.
Could I ask the engineer something?
Yes, Mr. Engineer, one of our members has a question for you, if you could step up.
I'm just wondering if you think if you could come up with something that would meet 35%, that would make everybody happy.
We can try. We can try to get as close as possible to the 35%. I will work on seeing what we can do with that one.
Okay.
That would be my thought.
That's,
How are we on the other two variances?
giving you feedback. I'm gonna go around on that.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, it's my proposal, if it's okay with the board, that we continue to talk about the 35% and the third request, but if everybody's given their comments, maybe we can work backwards for the other two.
Okay.
I see nodding. So we've had some good thoughts and input on the 35%. Anyone have anything else to add regarding that? I see.
I'm just very, very, very touchy when it comes to decreasing or increasing the footprint on a lot. We have a lot of drainage problems here. A curbed driveway is a great start, but there still is water that falls in the yard that spreads to errant neighbors, and very touchy about that.
Sure. 41% is different than 35%. That's
Yes.
could be, if not constructed properly.
Yes.
Any other comments? Alrighty. The second one is going backwards. Separation distance between dwellings. They're too close to the dwelling to the north, and looks like also to the south. Is that correct, board members?
Yes. It says 13.3, 13 feet, 3 inches from the dwelling to the south.
Gotcha.
Well, I think Ms. Shudo had a suggestion that they would have to use fireproofing materials.
Part of the building code.
Okay, part of the zoning code, yes.
And I'll just comment when I'm looking at the plan for both neighbors. Houses don't even meet the minimum 5-foot setback.
Correct,
So
yeah.
clearly, at least in my opinion, it does appear that part of this condition is completely out of the control and caused by potentially unique conditions
Yeah.
next door.
Well, you have to look at the character of the neighborhood,
Yeah.
and it appears as though many of the homes do not adhere to the 5-foot requirement.
Right. Okay. In general, or specifically, do any other board members have any additional thoughts or guidance, or what they're thinking regarding number 2?
I think you could make a rational argument that all 5 are met for
Okay, all right. So we have at least one board member that thinks we can do 5. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would tend to lean that way as well.
Yes, nodding yes, okay.
Yes.
I see nods.
I'm in the same.
Yeah, I see it too, okay. And then the third one, the minimum side yard setback of 5 feet. As we know, on the one side, the existing house is 4. Additional comments for the applicant on that? If any.
Again, that's not as bothersome to me as lot coverage.
So you think they could potentially meet the standard?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they could, yeah.
All right. Well, sir, we've given you some feedback. Do any members of the board, would they like to entertain a motion on this matter?
As we spoke on this also, we said we could take that down to a 1.5-car garage.
Okay, well, this is all with the board now. If we need you to speak again, we will. Thank you. Do any members of the board would like entertain a motion on this matter?
Yep.
I'll give it a shot. In the matter of PBA 0621, the request for a variance to construct a rear addition that does not meet the required side yard setbacks located at 3497 Tyler, parcel number 2507451034, zone single-family residential, to be tabled in order for the applicant, property owner, and city staff to address the following issues regarding the lot coverage and the size of the garage.
Okay, we have a motion.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Is there any discussion on this? And just to clarify for the motion maker and supporter, then this would be tabled to the date of our next meeting, which is
Correct.
scheduled for
August.
August.
our August meeting. So this
August
way,
11th?
yeah. So this way we won't have to re-advertise it.
Yeah.
So it's scheduled, okay, to be tabled. So we have a motion and a second to table this matter to our August meeting.
What is the date of that August meeting, do we know?
I believe it's August 9th.
Second Tuesday.
Oh, second. Tuesday or Monday?
Monday.
Monday.
I'm confusing that word.
It's the 10th.
The
It's
10th.
moved
Oh, it
to,
is the 10th.
yep,
Okay.
it's moved to a
That's
Tuesday because of,
No.
yep, it's moved to a Tuesday in August due to the Woodward Dream Cruise and
Oh,
the
that's right.
movement of the city council meeting to that Monday.
So it would
Okay.
be the 10th,
It'll be the
August 10th. Okay,
August 10th.
thank you.
Excellent question, that's good clarification. We certainly want members of the public as well as the applicants to know when the next meeting is. Thank you, Aaron. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
If I may, just for clarification purposes, are we tabling all three requests or just the lot coverage this evening in this motion?
Mr. Motion Maker?
All three requests?
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Yeah.
three. Okay, hearing no further discussion, I think we're ready for a roll call vote.
Euler,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes?
Gesund,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes. Okay, the motion to table has been approved. Gotten some input from the zoning board members. We'll see you here next month. And if you need to rewatch the meeting, it is on YouTube. It should be up in a few days if you want to take a look at those. Gentlemen, thanks for your time, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on, our next matter, item 2 is an application for a variance request for Larkmore. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Schluto for introduction.
I'd like to reference my July 8th, 2020 review letter. This is in regards to PBA-07-21, request at 1260 Larkmore. The homeowner and applicant are requesting 2 dimensional variances. One, to construct a first-story rear addition to the non-conforming structure that does not meet the side yard setback. And number 2, the proposed addition does not meet the required 15 feet separation distance between dwellings. We kind of just went through these, the requests and what's required in the last case, but I'll go through them again. So, in the schedule of regulations in the R1D district, the minimum side yard setback is 5 feet. The proposed addition is proposed to be 3 feet 3 inches from the west property line. The zoning ordinance requires a minimum separation distance of at least 15 feet between dwellings. The addition is proposed to be 13 feet 7 inches from the adjacent dwelling. So the land use, the subject property is zoned R1D, single-family district. It is surrounded by single-family homes, so it's right in line with the character of the neighborhood. According to Oakland County, the home was built in 1918, and an addition was built on the house in 1998. This was formerly a double lot, but as you can see, there are houses on either side. The house that's currently built at 1950 Larkmore was built in 2014. So that house has conformed to the setbacks of that is required. However, with the lot split there, it means that the house is a little bit closer to the dwelling than it should be. The scope of the project, they're proposing to construct a rear addition that is on the southwest corner, so it's only close to, incurring that 15-foot separation on one side. A little bit different than the last case that we saw, whereas it was both sides. This is just the property to the west. It's just a one-story addition, so there is no garage on the property, nor any other accessory structure, so lot coverage is not an issue in this case. Again, this is a non-conforming building, and per our ordinance, it may be added to or enlarged if such addition conforms to the regulations of the applicable zoning district. So any addition that would be proposed on this property would have to meet all of the applicable standards in the ordinance as it's currently written, including the separation distance and the side yard setback. However, the building itself currently is non-conforming, so the homeowner is looking to create construct the addition in which it goes straight back and follows the building line. It's not going to encroach any further into that setback or any closer to the adjacent dwelling. So I will, I've provided the summary of all of the requests, and I'll read the standards of review into the record. 1, the need for the variance is due to unique circumstances or physical conditions of the property. Number 2, the need for the variance is not the result of actions of the property owner or previous property owners. Number 3, strict compliance with the ordinance will unreasonably prevent the property owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or will render the conformity of those regulations unnecessarily burdensome. The requested variance is the minimum variance necessary to do substantial justice to the applicant as well as the other property owners. And the requested variance will not adversely impact the surrounding properties. We did receive 2 communications via email related to this case from neighbors within the 300 feet separation distance, as they were notified by mail. And those can be read into the record during the public hearing, but I have not received any other comments or emails or anything to that nature regarding this case.
Okay,
And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
thank you. Mr. Allen, I see you have a question for staff.
Yes, it was a double lot, and it
Mhm.
was split in 2014. Was it the applicant that split the lot?
It was the former homeowner.
Okay, so it's not who's currently applying for
Is
this.
that correct? Yes, the former homeowner
Okay.
had split the lot.
I was just curious for clarity.
Anyone else have any questions for Ms. Schluto? Okay, and I see the applicant is at the podium. Sir, you may proceed.
My name is Richard Linnell. My address is 2804 Orchard Lake Road, Suite 203, Kego Harbor, Michigan, 48320. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, who's also in the audience, Mr. Uliard. Really, most of the important points have already been touched on. I think that just to maybe add a little bit of detail without burning up a lot of time is that it was mentioned the house was built originally in 1918. And I can only imagine, since I wasn't alive, no one was alive that's in this building, unless they're really lucky with their age, that at that time it was conforming, or quite possibly there were no zoning ordinances. The point being that this house existed the way it did and presumably was compliant at that time. And as mentioned by staff, this is really a desire to continue without doing anything to alter the facade. This is quite a good-looking house, and if approved, this addition would do nothing to change the street look or the facade. The letters that'll be read in, I've been made privy to those letters. They happen to be the owners to the immediate west and east. The owner to the immediate west would be the one that would be impacted if we were fortunate enough to have these variances granted. And that homeowner has what I would describe as emphatically supported this request. I think one other thing that I would want to bring to the attention of the members of the ZBA is that the house has a kitchen, not surprisingly. It is located about midpoint in the house on the west side. And what's significant about that is the kitchen A is very small. It's approximately 7 by 10. When you add cupboards and appliances, we can all imagine how small that is. One might argue quaint, but I think in today's society that's just small. And really this area happens to be the only, I'm not going to say the only area, but only economically feasible area in which to expand the kitchen. And that is part of what's driving this, is to make a kitchen that certainly won't be large by any modern standards, but will certainly be more sufficient and make the house more usable. And my client, of course, didn't construct the kitchen or the house, but is trying to make the best with what exists, trying to work within the confines of what's permitted by the zoning ordinance, and more importantly, to maintain the aesthetics. The aesthetics of the house are very important to my client, and she wants to maintain that, and that's part of how she got to what consists of the current application that's before you. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Linnell. Do any members of the board have any questions for the applicant?
I do.
Yes.
There's significant trees behind in the back of the property, according to the aerial photograph. In order to construct this addition, will those trees have to be removed, or?
I'll verify with my client, but I happen to have, if I may approach.
Okay.
Yes.
I have pictures here that show the area in question, what I refer to as a cutout. You're welcome to circulate this if you want. And it shows that there aren't any trees, at least not
Okay,
of this
gotcha.
significance, that
Okay.
are located within that area, if I may.
I didn't see any trees.
It's easy.
And I've just confirmed with my client that there aren't any trees that would have to come down and,
Okay.
for purposes of access, and certainly not for the improvements that are proposed.
Okay.
Okay.
All set, Mr. Tizon?
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions from any board members for the applicant? Okay, you may have a seat. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
At this point, I'll open up the public hearing on this matter. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the board regarding this matter? Yes, Mr. Smith, please.
Maybe a line behind me. This is why I came here tonight. Mr. Illiard is my neighbor. I visited the site, got a chance to talk to her, and based on what I've been told and what I've seen, I support this variance. The addition itself is about as small as can be done to create an updated kitchen, useful floor space in a house that's more than 100 years old. I want to clarify one thing. There was talk about the split lot and a new building that went up. That new building is to the east of the property, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Correct.
Okay, so the property to the west, the one that would be encroached upon, has also been sitting on that site for 100 years. So there's no correlation to this application and the new build that was in 2017 or 18. So you got no change from the existing properties. Again, this addition is at the back. You would not see it from the street. And same fire thing. You just build to make it burn slow. From a community perspective, allowing a property owner to make minor changes that help modernize an older property can help reduce the number of teardowns, which is something I think I'd like to keep a lot of our buildings. Maintain a mix of house sizes, which is also important, and even encourage neighboring property owners to upgrade their homes. So in this case, I look at this application as something that, if the variances are granted, or the variance is granted, it's like a win-win-win situation. Those don't happen too often. So that's why I support the application. One other comment. The hardest thing to do is find something unique about the property. Every property in Berkeley is unique. There's something about the size of the foundation, the placement of foundations. It's not as difficult to find a unique as it might at first appear.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And seeing is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay, with that, well, we do have two public comments, so before I close the public hearing, I'll defer to Vice Chair McAlpine to read those public comments into the record.
So the first one is from Matt Jenke, who resides at 1278 Lockmore. It was dated Monday, March 12th. It was sent to Ms. Schluto, and it says, "Hello, please see attached for my signed and dated approval letter for Lori Droulard's requested variance ahead of her hearing today. Please let me know if you have any questions. I do not plan on attending the hearing and can be reached if needed. He has provided a telephone number. That was the first correspondence. The second correspondence was from Jen Ivy and Jeff Flashauer, who reside at 1250 Lockmore. It was dated July 12th. It was addressed to the City of Berkley Building Department and Zoning Board of Appeals. Regarding Zoning Board of Appeals hearing application number PBA 0721 at 1260 Lockmore in Berkeley, it says, "Dear Zoning Board of Appeals members, we are writing in support of the variances requested by Lori Drouillard for the residents located at 1260 Lockmore, our next-door neighbor. Ms. Drouillard and her family are outstanding members of the Lockmore community. They have been working hard over the last few years to continuously improve their property. They are friendly and caring neighbors. We do not believe they would do anything to jeopardize the well-being of our community or negatively impact the property values of their neighbors. The requested variances are reasonable, and we expect they will increase the property value as well as the value of other properties around them, like our home. Additionally, we understand they will be doing construction over the next several months, both inside and outside their home, that may cause some noise around the neighborhood. We know that they will do their best to limit the noise, but understand that some of the noise associated with construction work is unavoidable. We look forward to seeing their home improvements. Please feel free to reach out with any questions, and it is signed by both of them, and their phone numbers have been provided as well."
Thank you. That concludes the public hearing portion of this matter. I'll close that out, and I'll bring it back to the board for discussion. May the board members have anything they'd like to talk about or perhaps propose a motion? Mr. Allen?
Yeah, the only thing that I ever find troubling encroaching on other houses is in the event of a fire, but Ms. Schluto has assured us that Michigan or U.S. building code requires those fire stop walls to be built. So that would be my only concern, if there is a concern.
Anyone else like to forward a motion or perhaps discuss the proposal as it relates to the standards?
If I may.
Mr. Jason?
The first requirement, the need for the variance, is due to the unique circumstances or physical conditions of the property. The neighboring houses are already non-conforming, and the character of the neighborhood is already, it's already hard to meet with the buildings standing as they are. And we could grant that with that one. Need for the variance is not the result of the actions of the property owner or previous property owners. The building's already non-conforming, so it's not that any addition would cause this to make it worse. My only concern with that is if someone, either the applicant or a future property owner 10 years down the road, an addition was already built onto the property, I think in 1998. And what's to stop them from coming back in 10 or 15 years and adding a garage?
That's also
If we keep
non-conforming, sure.
if we keep granting these variances, these buildings keep getting bigger and bigger. The requested variance is the minimum variance necessary to do. I can agree with that one. And the requested variance is in the back of the property, so it doesn't affect the surrounding properties.
You want to talk about number 3, or did you skip that on purpose?
Oh. I think I kind of skipped that one on purpose, but the size of the size of the kitchen and the size of the property for modern uses is too small, so I can see that one.
Gotcha. Okay, well, thanks for those comments. Ms. Ward?
Mr. Chairman, As the gentleman in the audience alluded to, this is probably the smallest addition of any homeowner's request. It isn't going to provide a huge amount of space to improve the kitchen, but yes, it will make improvements and enlarge the kitchen. To me, I see it as it is squaring off the house. And right now, the house, as Mr. Gesund indicated, is non-conforming, the neighborhood is non-conforming, and basically, not that this is going to make it conforming, but at least it's going to make the house more rectangular in shape than it has been previously. And as for down the road in 10 years, the zoning ordinances may change again.
Excellent point. Points, I should say. Does anyone else have any comments or thoughts on this matter? Mr. Ular?
My only comment would be we'd still have the 35% thing to save us if they come back and try to build a huge garage. I don't know what the percentages are now, but, so, yeah.
So there are some protections there.
Well, and technically, we're making a decision based upon what is in front of us and not what the future is, so.
Yes.
Great.
Yes. And again, zoning ordinances may change.
And we will evaluate it at that time on
Exactly.
whatever the criteria are.
Precisely, yeah.
Ms. McAlpin, you and I will be here on the board.
Well, I agree with everything that's been said. If I could just chime in on the 5. I think the unique circumstance is the fact that this house was built with who knows what zoning, if it was in effect at the time, and has been around since the teens, with a reduced setback on the side yard. That clearly is not a result of the actions of the property owner, and I guess if you want to call the previous property owner the original one, I don't think that's reasonable at all. I think this is a very reasonable request. They've indicated that the house, like very small kitchen, not that there's a requirement for minimum, maximum size kitchen, but I think the property owner is doing everything to try to do the minimum necessary to achieve substantial justice. I think if substantial alterations to the interior were to occur to try to accommodate, it gets to a point where if you throw enough money, we're not talking money, but if you have to, how much work is necessary to accomplish what everybody else is normally allowed to do? And I think this is very minimal. It's a single-story addition. It is a very small addition. We've seen some very larger additions that may have a different impact on the neighbors. This one, it's a 2-story house. It's only 1 story, matches the existing height of what it's attached to. And both neighbors, actually we have 3 neighbors who have testified that they believe it will not adversely impact the surrounding property. So I believe for those reasons that this does satisfy all 5 standards, and I would vote yes on a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, if you would entertain a motion, I would move to approve in the matter of PBA 07-21, the request for a variance to construct an addition that does not meet the required side yard setbacks located at 1260 Larkmore, parcel number 25-17-408-051, zone single-family residential, to be approved due to the following findings of fact: that the 5 standards of review have been met. And that is, 1, the need for the variance is due to the unique circumstance and physical conditions of the property, which is very true. I think Mr. Gesund did an excellent job summing that up. 2, the need for the variance is not the result of actions of the property owner or previous property owners. Again, that has been well stated. 3, strict compliance with the ordinance will unreasonably prevent the property owner from using the property for permitted purpose, or will render conformity with these regulations unnecessarily burdensome. And I think we've addressed that. 4, the requested variance is the minimum variance necessary. And again, this is a very small addition to do substantial justice to the applicant as well as other property owners who have written and addressed this board. And 5, the requested variance is not adversely impacting the surrounding properties within the community.
Well put, very complete. Do we have a second on the motion?
Support?
Support? Okay. Any additional discussion on the motion? Hearing none, Ms. Schluto, we're ready for a vote.
Can I clarify? So Ms. Ward made the motion, and it was only for the side yard setback request for variance. It did not include the other one. I didn't know if you wanted to do them separately. I included them separately in the samples, just in case we needed to
okay.
separate them. But if you want to tie them all
May I
together in the same
amend
motion.
my motion?
You certainly can.
And I will amend my motion in the matter of PBA-07-21, the request for a variance to construct an addition that encroaches into the required minimum 15 feet separation distance located at 1260 Larkmore. And again, it meets the 5 standards that we discussed here.
I'll
Support.
We have support.
re-support that.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Gazant.
thank you. Any additional thought or discussion from any board members on that? Now I think we're ready for a vote.
Ward,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Gazund,
Yes.
McAlpine,
Yes.
Euler,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes. Congratulations, you have your variance. Thank you for coming tonight.
Yes, thank you for your consideration, thank you for your approval.
We need to keep those for the record.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. You may not have those back.
All right, I'm,
Thank
let's
you.
see, thank you. I'm gonna move on now, I'm gonna, come back to other business and staff board member report. I'm gonna move on to the liaison report, Councilmember Hennon.
Oh, yes, you may.
Yeah, so first, just wanted to say we're finally back in person, but as I'm sure you're all aware, City Council settled the case of Giamarchi v. Berkley, and in effect overturning your ruling to deny a side yard generator. Since then, I've looked into, is there a way we can preserve the ZBA's independence so you can defend yourselves in court rather than being reliant on City Council? Unfortunately, it doesn't look like there is any mechanism where we can make that happen. So I've also asked that we bring the ordinance on generators back to the Planning Commission. You know, if it's the will of council to allow generators such as in the Giamarco case, then we should update the law to reflect that. So I know this is disappointing for many of you, but I did want to personally thank all of you for your service to the city.
Thank you. Do members of the board have any questions regarding that matter for,
Yeah, why the bejeebers did that happen?
what was the question? I wasn't here.
Why? So city council just made a decision to settle?
I'd like to know the answer to that too.
Can you tell us why?
You put me in an awkward position in discussing closed session strategy.
Attorney's fees, I mean, it's just, head if I say the right thing. Cost?
They felt as council, they aren't held to the same standards, the same 5 standards as the ZBA is, and so did not have to evaluate it on the same merits.
I mean, the message that sends is anybody just hire a lawyer and you get your generator.
And I
Or
do-
anything else.
Yeah, and I just want to caution the board that Mr.
Yeah, I'm not,
Councilman Hennon, we're not here to
I'm not.
grill you, you're not the whole board, and I think you may hear some
And-
comments from the board that may not necessarily be directed.
And I think you've heard my public statements as well
Yes,
on the
sure.
matter.
You can only, right, you're only one member, and, sure. Mr. Ular, with that being said, the floor is yours.
I mean, if I'm commenting, I don't see the sense in that.
Okay.
I think when those cases came up, you know, a generator is, maybe there might be a case where it's presented where it's an essential item and you can't live on the property without it. I haven't seen that case yet. And the city's taking the approach that, well, we'll just, hire a lawyer and let them put one in because it costs too much or something. It's just disappointing.
Thank you. Ms. Ward?
Councilman Hennon, maybe there would be some consideration of amending the ordinance so that it would include not only air conditioners, but also include generators. I am looking at my own situation. I have an air conditioning on the side of my property. If I was to request and buy a generator, I would have to put it behind my garage, which would be an exorbitant cost to run the necessary gas and electric, because in my patio area, there are too many windows. There's my kitchen window and my den window, and it has to be, I believe, 5 feet or 6 feet away from any window. So the only place that it could be put would be behind my garage. And I feel that that would be a unreasonable request of a homeowner. I may consider getting a generator. I know we lost some power in Berkley last week with our storms. So it's not out of the question. And maybe, as Mr. Ular indicated, 10 years from now, everybody will have a generator, just like 10 years or 20 years ago, nobody had air conditioning. Now everybody has air conditioning, or most everyone has air conditioning in their home. So I think it's something that the Planning Commission, as well as the City Council, needs to perhaps review and see if there isn't a possibility of amending the ordinance.
I have asked that the Planning Commission does
To do
look at
that.
it. Specifically, I'm interested in the situation where a side yard abuts a rear yard, which I think was overlooked in the original ordinance and needs to be reviewed.
Thank you very much.
Any other board members have any comments?
I do.
Yeah, Mr. Allen.
I just wanted everybody in this room to know, if you didn't know already, Dennis was the lone dissenting vote on settling, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
I appreciate that too. I, to this day, have not heard an explanation why, consistent with what Mr. Hennon, Councilmember Hennon is relaying to us tonight. I can't fathom why this would happen, and it bothers me even more that for some reason this board can't be told why it is. I mean, we've heard several potential ideas tonight. I mean, is it that they weren't happy with? I don't know. And I'm avoiding suggesting why, because I don't think that would be fair. But at the same time, I'm very dissatisfied with the fact that we haven't heard why. I've got some additional comments I want to make. I'll save it for public comments, because we have a few other items. And if anyone else has any additional comments on this, maybe we can reserve it for public comments. But I'll move on to staff and board member reports. Ms. Schluter, do you have anything to report? And do any board members have anything they want to report to the board? Okay. Well, the next item on our agenda is public comments. I'll open up the floor for public comments. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to the board? And seeing that no one is interested, I'll close that matter, and I'd like to make a public comment. I've been on this board since 2012, been chair for quite a while, and when I first heard that council was considering not defending this board's decision in circuit court and settling, I believe I had some impact on getting council to reconsider. However, it still frosts me, and I'm very dissatisfied and felt we've been treated unprofessionally, that we still don't know why. And I respect that it's council's decision if that's what they want to do. But I I don't think this was the best decision. I think it makes the board look like we don't know what we're doing. And the solution, I think, that has been brought up tonight, one of the solutions was to re-examine the ordinance. That could have been done without having this solution. In my professional career, and as most of you know, I do this for a living. Right now I'm at City of Troy. I'm staff liaison. We just had a matter this year that our board the Troy board denied. They went to circuit court, and what the court does is they review to see if we've either done something we shouldn't have done, or vice versa. The record has to be adequate. If the judge can't tell what we've done, they're going to send it back because they can't tell. Or if we've violated a law, or if we've somehow exceeded our discretion. Obviously, we've got a very narrow scope of discretion with our standards, and we have to make sure we follow that. That could have been done. And in the two situations that I've been involved in my career, just as staff, one was affirmed by the circuit court, one was sent back because some information that was incorrect was provided by staff to the board. What I'm getting at is the city is not going to lose money or get sued for an amount if the circuit court doesn't affirm. And I think that they should have defended this. And in a worst case scenario, the circuit court, in theory, the court could overturn it, but they don't like to do that because that's our authority as a quasi-judicial board. So then they send it back. I guess what I'm getting at is they should have defended it in court. And I'm not happy about this. There's a reason why appeals to ZBA decisions are heard by circuit court and not city council. It's unfortunate that the same body, city council, that appoints the members here and vets them, have now acted in their place, and I'm not happy about it, and this can't happen. As I said, there's other solutions, and I believe this is so unprofessional. This is my last board meeting. I've had a couple discussions. Well, city council, through the mayor, just not representing city council, he did speak to me about this. And before that, I wrote a letter when I first saw it on the agenda the day that it was first held. And they had every opportunity to reach out to the board or reach out to me and also share it with us. But what frosts me, I can understand why we might not have been included, but to still not tell us why. What have we done wrong? We didn't do anything wrong. And if someone's going to tell us we did something wrong or should have done something right, it should have been the circuit court. So it ruins the whole integrity of this board. And I think we have excellent members here, we have excellent staff, and everyone here, as well as past boards, have put a lot of time and energy into doing this for free, all to make Berkley a better place. So as you can tell, I'm not happy about all this. But anyways, so this is my last meeting, and I've learned a bit over the few years that I've been here, and there's a few people to thank. And despite my comments about city council, I've been continually appointed and reappointed every year, most recently this June. And I appreciate that. I appreciate our council liaisons for the larger communities that I work for. We don't have those. Councilman Hennon and his predecessors, I believe Ross Gavin was still on council. But we've always had a liaison here show up at these meetings. I appreciate that. Everyone here at this dais, I want to thank you all. I've learned so much from everybody here. Every meeting I learned something new, and I appreciate everything you've done. You've truly made me a better member. Berkley's got a very qualified zoning board. Everyone here takes their job seriously. You all truly care for your community. We've even got a member here who's on her second tenure, Ms. Ward, as the board, so she came back to help. I want to thank staff. City Manager Baumgarten runs a good ship. He's provided lots of support for this board over the years, even through the pandemic. IT, and the people who work, Tori. They've done an excellent job to guide our meetings and make these work. I work for a community that was struggling with this. Lastly, and I hope I haven't forgot anybody here, Erin, our liaison. She excels at what she does. We are extremely lucky, especially a community our size, to have her on the board. I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget. She does a superb job of supporting us, the role of the chair. In the past, I've joked, Erin, that you can't quit your job because we won't let you. And even though I may not be on this board anymore, I'm still a Berkley resident, and I'll have the opportunity to participate. You know, I'm going to joke around some more. Where I work in Troy, we just got approved to hire an additional planner. And we're a staff of like 2 people, plus a secretary. I'm not going to recommend Erin for that job. Because as a resident, I do not want to lose her. Erin, you've made my job more rewarding, and, well, you've all made my job fun. My view of government is that many people, or let me back up, my view of government, especially at the local level, it's many people trying to make their community better, and I hope that my time on this board has made Berkley a little better. I'll say that Berkley is in excellent hands with this board, staff. Hopefully City Council will take us a little more seriously, and I'll formalize this tomorrow morning. But I want to thank everybody here. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, and I see Mr. Allen has his hands up too.
You gave some very solid advice to Ms. Schluto. Perhaps you should think about that advice for yourself and reconsider your decision.
I haven't put it in writing yet. Thank you.
Yes.
I'll make a comment too. I just want to read this since we read it every time. Strict compliance with the ordinance will unreasonably prevent the property owner from using the property for a permitted purpose or will render conformity with those regulations unnecessarily burdensome. It's a generator. It just boggles my mind. I think a first-year law student would go to circuit court, maybe even a high school debate student would go to circuit court, argue that, and probably win. So they're going to say, well, I might lose power 1 day every 3 years or 2 days every 3 years, and I'll really need it then because I don't want my meat to go bad. And the high school student or the first-year law student would say, you're using your property, aren't you?
You're living there, sleeping there.
Yeah. I just don't get it. I'd love to be a fly on the wall, but the thing that really rankles me is, yeah, if we did something wrong, it should be explained to us. And if we didn't do something wrong, there still should be some sort of explanation. But the appearance of it is it's a generator. We don't want to deal with it. They got an attorney. We'd have to, pay somebody presumably to go through the circuit court process, and this is just easier. And that's just. I just started the phone with my foot. I would also ask you.
All set? Mr. Euler?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Evans. I've appreciated your leadership here. What I don't appreciate is when a body that you work for doesn't appreciate what you do, and it comes back to hit us hard. I'm all about teachable moments. If I do something wrong, I want to find out why, and I want to make sure it doesn't happen again. Lately, in social media and elsewhere, there's a whole lot of people running for city council that think they know all about the ZBA and all about the planning commission. They don't. They're full of crap. This is one of the most difficult jobs in a community. I've been doing it for 22 years, on and off. I've enjoyed every minute of it except for the last month. And I thought, I'll get over this. I'm not going to get over this. When I call the mayor of this city and ask him to come to this meeting and talk to all of us to enlighten us on what we need to do and get a dead refusal, there's something wrong. I, too, tender my resignation along with Paul.
Thank you. Is there any additional comments tonight? Board?
I would hope that you would reconsider your decision.
Not a chance, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Hearing no further comments, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thanks, everybody, for attending.
Thank you.
More public comment?
Still open, right?
I guess it is open. I have to close public comment. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment?
I would.
Mr. Smith?
Dean Smith, resident of Berkley, Michigan. Mr. Evans, I'm devastated. During my time on the ZBA, you were like this beacon that you did everything right, you maintained control, you were consistent. If there's a way you would reconsider resigning, and here I am, the guy that stormed off and left the planning commission and the ZBA because I was annoyed by a few things. City loses big. Mr. Allen, same with you. You know, we don't always agree on things, but
No.
there's a high ethical standard. And when people meet that high ethical standard, they can behave like professionals and do well. I know nothing about your generator case. I just know watching somebody in pain because they've had their legs cut out from underneath them it's painful. And I thank you for your service. I'm oddly enough speechless, and I'm very disappointed. Not in you, but that the circumstance that puts you out. I hope to see you around. And if you're near Clark's, I'll buy you an ice cream.
Thank you. With that, I'll close public comments, and I'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Steve, reconsider. And I knew why.